Chukma, Hachin Chukma Tahatak, Chickasaw Nompa Okano, Sahoshifo, Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate, Chickasaw Saya, Chickasaw Inki Saya, Impichchaachaaha Choka Michashawi Iksa, Ishtaun Cholo Lili, Toloa Ikbili, Hashlaka Sayoba, Chukmashki, Yakoke. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate. I'm a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation here in Oklahoma, and I am a professional classical composer.
To start off, so the questions, I've been thinking about them a lot, and I've been thinking a great deal about your approach to Chickasaw music, especially your comparison to what Debussy achieved for French music and what Bartók achieved for Hungarian music. And
Right.
I would love to understand more about how you see your role in that lineage. How do you conceptualize Chickasaw musical identity within the framework of classical composition? And in what ways do you feel your work helps bring that voice into the concert tradition?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, so there's two very strong streams going on at the same time, and one is that I'm part of a very much of a classical fine art heritage that has people like Tchaikovsky and Debussy and Toru Takemitsu, and so there's that stream of influence, and then there's also our fine art stream in Indian country. Indian country has been involved in the classical fine arts for over 200 years now in multiple genres. So we've all grown up around a lot of American Indian visual art, which is a very, very established genre in the visual arts. So there's two very, very strong cultural streams that are already present that I get to ride, and so I'm influenced very heavily by both of them simultaneously. And the beauty of it is that in the fine art world, fine art is like this. It's like this separate being that was created in humanity that literally asks, and I mean, it begs people to bring in their own individual identity within a certain discipline. And fine art has been like this cloud that's just gone all over the world and like scooped up all kinds of new talent everywhere it goes. So at this point in history, everybody across the planet is involved in all of the genres of what we call fine art. And a really great example of that is film. I mean, film is like probably the newest fine art invention to humanity, and it's actually not even aboriginal to one specific cultural region. It's like a world event was film. And so I mean, I've got a hero, Sterling Harjo, who did Reservation Dogs, and he's expressing his Muskogee identity as a modern Muskogee person in film, and he's one of just thousands and thousands of people who express their identity in film who are from all parts of the globe. So I'm part of this stream that's just been going on within humanity for a very, very long time, and I'm heavily influenced by both of those cultural streams from Indian country and from the classical fine arts simultaneously. So a good example of this is actually for a composer that I'm strongly influenced by is Tchaikovsky, and one of the reasons is because I also grew up with a ballet mom, and so you can imagine like Swan Lake and Nutcracker are two very big ballet pieces
Oh,
that
yeah.
have had a strong influence on me because Tchaikovsky was undeniably Russian in his expression, but also Tchaikovsky was expressing and he was paying homage to his cultural neighbors through his music. So, like in the second act of the Nutcracker, you have divertissements that are homage to his cultural neighbors. So you've got the Arabian piece, you've just got different pieces from different parts that surround the Russian territory, and he's paying homage to his cultural neighbors. And so that's something that I do as well. I will work with other tribes from North America, and so I'm paying homage to my tribal neighbors when I do stuff like that. And so he's a really big influence because, again, he's focusing on his Russianness, but also paying homage to his cultural neighbors. And I just think that's fantastic. And you think about this. I mean, Puccini did the same thing with Turandot. He was paying homage to his Chinese neighbors, and so this happens within the fine
Yeah.
art world as well. Is that we're influenced by our global neighbors, and we end up paying homage to them as well in some of those expressions, while remaining very rooted in our own identities. This has been going on for a very, very long time. So in many ways, all people have monolithic feelings and also very diverse feelings in their experience. And it's the same thing within Indian country. We have very much a monolithic feeling within our community, but we are also very, very diverse nations. So, and again, this happens all over the globe. It's really, really cool how fluid all of that is, and how connected we are, and also how individual we are at the same time. And it's really a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful experience for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That really is clear.
I hope that's helpful. You know, that's
It is. It's very helpful.
It's
because
very
I mean,
helpful.
because the answer to a lot of these questions is like all of the above. You know, it's there's so much happening, and so much, and
Yes,
of course
yes, yes,
we live in a
yes.
really really super unique time, in which we are all being influenced by so much so rapidly. I mean, just the advantage of Spotify. I mean, I'm a Spotify person. I'm constantly making new playlists, and the algorithm is affecting what I'm listening to. And you bet I'm influenced by all kinds of things. I mean, like for instance, my son, of course, you know, when K-pop Demon Hunters came out, you know, last summer, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
we watched that 1,000. I am very influenced by the high quality of production in those compositions because it's good stuff. And I mean, now, right, we just got done binging Arcane on Netflix. And that, I mean, gosh, the writing in that is really, really solid. And so, I mean, there's stuff like that. And of course, Spotify takes me to all these related things. And I just love that as a composer. So, I mean, look, I'm completely rooted in my Chickasaw identity, but I'm also like a kid in a candy shop with all this music that's available to listen to around the world. And I'm spiritually very, very influenced by good art all over the place.
That's wonderful. Wonderful answer. Love it.
Yep. And you
So,
know, if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and go off because you were talking about Dvorak as a very specific example. And I think it's really important to address because so many people bring him up as a comparison because of the statements that he made about his mission of coming over to America and having this type of influence. And you know, Dvorak is historically a symphonic hero to me. His music is amazing, and you know the fact that I was on the same album with on the Dover String Quartet album, right next to Dvorak's American Quartet, was really quite an honor because it's one of the most amazing pieces ever composed in music history. And Dvorak had a great spirit coming over and lots of enthusiasm because he's very rooted in his Czech folk music, and so he wanted to share that enthusiasm to the United States. The thing is, it's a very different history here. The United States is an incredibly unique pocket of world history. So while his intent was great, the way it was going to happen was not going to be exactly what he imagined because of the diversity and the immigration history and everything. Very, very unique place in the Western Hemisphere. But I'm inspired by his ethos, his spirit, and his artistry about how he expresses himself in his music, and I just take that from other artists from all kinds of genres. Like you express yourself like this. Oh, I want to do that. I want to, you know, all this influence of ethos from different artists is very, very, very present. And Dvorak is very, very influential in his spirit.
yeah, that's one of the questions I had for you and stuff. Were you busy mentally taking up that challenge that Dvorak posed to American composers about
No,
go look
No,
to your roots?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
That's, I'm saying this with great love in my heart because his message was well intended, but he just has a very very different history. But what he was coming, I'm more influenced by all of the artists who pull from their ethnic or national or personal experience. I'm by all of it. So he in particular didn't have like a specifically unique message. He was trying to kind of impose his method on America, and that's the where it's kind of
Yeah.
mixed. There's always going to be a different way that it happens, but
Right.
that has been going on in fine art for a very very long time,
Yeah.
and again in Indian country, all the fine arts have been active for well over 200 years now, and so I'm just influenced by all artists, but not necessarily his specific words about that.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm much more influenced by the poetry of Joy Harjo, or the choreography of Santee Smith, or the orchestrations of Lewis Ballard. I mean, that's where my ethnic inspiration comes from. But in general, with artists in general, Dvorak is one of many, many fine artists whom I am influenced by. Martha Graham is a very big influence of mine. Joseph Campbell is a very big influence of mine in his philosophies. There's all kinds of influences like that who are very, very centered in legend and ethos of culture and of ancient legend. There's a lot of that speak going on throughout fine art, through the history of fine arts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
like
yeah, so it's just a little more broad than that. He had a
Yeah.
great he had a great run. He came over and was giving all of his energy, and that's really really cool. But that
Yeah.
wasn't the source of what I'm doing. It's just
And
he's
he
just
didn't
he's
say
a,
that
he's just a
more.
colleague and a neighbor in the same cause of creating great fine art.
Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes good sense.
He was only here for a couple of years. What did he really
Yeah.
kind of question, if I may? I was introduced as a member of the Eureka Symphony board, but I'm also in the orchestra, and Carol is my conductor. And so rehearsing a piece of yours is absolutely the best way to get to know it.
Mhm.
And ever since we did Chokvi last season,
Right.
1 year ago, we did Chokvi. And I felt like I was hearing so many things in your soundscape. I'm just fascinated by your soundscape. And I felt like, you even said so. He's chopping on wood. He's hopping. He's looking at the clouds. So anyway, I want to address the soundscape of Ghost of the White Deer. It's so dense, really. And my favorite part is the forest. I just love the forest. I'm a cellist, and you were kind enough to say you love the lower strings. I listened to your bassoon class. That's how I know these things. Yeah.
I always tell the double basses, cellos, and violas there can never be enough of you. It's like you got to provide a floor is really really important with the strings. Mm-hmm.
And I totally loved how the double bass and the bassoon, go together in some of the. Mm-hmm. So can I just ask you? Like when we go into the forest with Blue Jay, there's a bird cry, like right at the beginning, and I was comparing it to the Blue Jay cry. Like, is it?
Yeah. Yes. So I think I know where you're going with it. I think I can fill in what you're thinking. So okay. So Chickasaw people were originally from northern Mississippi. So we're woodland people from the southeastern part of the United States. And actually the tribes that are east of the Mississippi are all woodland people, and so there's a whole woodland culture ethos that goes along with that. The deep woods of Mississippi are very powerful and rich, and when I am composing, I am in the homelands. I am literally standing in the homelands, and that's the nature that I feel. I'm very affected by that environment, and so my music is very environmental in that sense. And so I'm hearing the animals, the birds. That floor, that's the ground and the grass, the rich grass and the trees. I mean, the trees are magnificent in the southeast. The rivers, those are rivers. I mean, those are serious rivers. I mean, so the nature for me in the southeast is very, very powerful and lives in my heart very deeply. And I literally, every time I'm composing, I am absolutely standing in the forests of my ancestors. And I love that. I find great comfort, and I bring it around me like a very, very rich blanket of just wealth and security, and I feel our history, and I feel our legend. That's how I feel when I'm writing. And so Ghost of the White Deer is a very good example of that, and that appears in my orchestrations a lot. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me that you would feel that, and it's very validating to me to hear you say that.
I absolutely feel it, and the transitions, right? Of course, it's played without pause, but they're very clear, the transitions.
Yeah.
And I really like listening to Laughing Minko.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a lot of stuff going on there too. Like in the village, we're in the village, right?
Yes.
And there's all those little, you so much, so much color in there. It's real. And of course, Minko is laughing in kind of 5/8, like ha 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 ha.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's being cruel to this kid because he.
Yes, he is. It's not a funny laugh. It's
sardonic.
Mean, yeah.
Mocking, right?
Yeah.
What did you say? Biting and mean. That was your message, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's sending this kid off to his death.
Yes. And he's not coming back. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, that's just part of the legend. And, stories from all of our cultures, all of our ancient cultures have a lot of, they're very dynamic. They really, really are. There's lots of human in all of our stories. And, some of those are not so easy.
Yeah,
some of those aspects are kind of, they're tough. And, but that's part of humanity, and that's part of our history.
Yeah, Elizabeth was interested in the ethos of your references to Joseph Campbell and that hero culture. And of course, in this hero, he doesn't come back the victor.
No,
That book.
he does.
Oh, he does?
He
Oh,
lives in
tell
her
us.
heart forever.
Oh,
I mean, that is a true love story.
oh, thank you. We need to know that.
Oh, I
Mhm.
needed to know that. Yeah,
Yes.
because I was so upset that he vanished forever.
It's one of the reasons why it recaps the way it does is because his spirit absolutely wins the day. He wins her
Oh,
heart. He really does. And so,
ah,
and that's a tragic hero story. That's that there's different versions of how a hero lives, and he lives in the spirit.
Fantastic. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm so glad to know that.
And if you think about it, the deer is also a major hero because the deer challenges him to be his best hero, to be his best warrior. So to me, there's a multiple win circumstances. I mean, he really does prove himself. He faces a challenge that few others can do, and so he does it. And so even though he doesn't come back in the body, he comes back to her in the spirit. She sees him in the smoke all the time.
Okay,
and that's your
yeah.
picture, in fact, isn't it? The deer is in the smoke.
That's
That
right.
that, that
Yep.
beautiful painting.
And she's not waiting, and that deer must fall, and it never does.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's so great. That's
Yeah,
really
Yeah.
great.
right.
Yeah. So, one of the things also is your fabulous use of percussion. We've had to really expand our percussion
Yes.
equipment, yeah, to make this all happen. And
Sorry.
no, it's done. The percussion section is thrilled,
Yeah.
to be so important,
Yeah. Mm.
And so, do you feel that we're able to actually imitate what you have in your culture with our equipment?
That's the beauty of the symphonic orchestra. So let me give you an example. So for American Indian painters, they're using acrylics and canvas and all kinds of media that's not aboriginal to our cultures.
Mm.
Um, you know, uh, Joy Harjo writes poetry in books in the English language. None of that is Aboriginal, but those are tools that she successfully uses to express her identity as a Muskogean person.
Mm.
So we are part of the fine art community that uses these developed tools that come from all kinds of places, actually. And so the good news is that the symphonic orchestra is amazing. It's just awesome and cool. It's the reason why you don't have a second of silence in a Marvel movie because the symphonic orchestra is king. It's just amazing. So like I will say a really good example is Chinnery Ung, who's the Cambodian composer who composes chamber music. It sounds entirely Cambodian, and there's not one Cambodian instrument. I mean, it's incredible how he orchestrates. And
Yeah.
of course, there's a lot of percussion in it. Our instruments are so capable of a wide swath of color palette. It's just unbelievable what we can do with the classical instruments in the symphonic orchestra. And that's one of the reasons why I have so much percussion is because the color in percussion is just endless. And especially when you're pairing it with other sections in the orchestra, it's just the sky's the limit. We're never ever going to run out of music to write ever in human history. And it's not just because of symphonic. I mean, all of our ancient instruments from all over the world are all absolutely phenomenal. And so the color palette that we have to choose from it as humans is really amazing. But the symphonic orchestra is such a great tool for all composers, and we can do anything. And it's endless. It's just endless.
Yeah.
Hmm. So like Debussy, like let me give you an example. So like if he wrote his piece La Mer, which is about the sea, but there's no sea in it. It's about the sea, and he's using the orchestra, so it's about the sea without the sea, if that makes any sense. And so I don't feel the need to like import all kinds of traditional instruments. I am abstracting them with the orchestra, like Debussy did with impressionistic music. I'm doing a very similar thing. Bartok did the same thing. He's imitating folk songs and dances, not with the original singers. He's doing it with the orchestra. So you see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm doing is I'm abstracting and I'm using the symphonic orchestra as my paint.
Oh, that's a very good explanation. I like that.
Yeah, and not with the folk instruments either,
No,
right?
yeah.
With,
Rameau did the same thing with the harpsichord. He was imitating animals and French culture and everything like that with a
Right.
harpsichord. And that's a very monochromatic sounding instrument, but still, there's so much there was so much texture possible. The way what he did with it was really, really quite brilliant in expressing his folk identity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great. Did you have another? Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've kind of somewhat already covered it, but my second question was actually about the ethos. You spoke about how much you respect and appreciate the ethos of Indian country and the stories that's really important to you. It's an important part of you.
Yes.
Could you say a little more about that? Like, what am I taking from Ghost of the White Deer? But you did somewhat already answer it, because now I know that it's a love story, not a totally tragic story. It is anyway. Just tell me more.
It's just a really beautiful and rich legend, from our tribe. So just a little background about myself. My father Charles is Chickasaw from Oklahoma, and Dad professionally is a tribal lawyer and judge and special district judge, and so my dad is also a tremendously trained classical pianist and baritone, and so I grew up with my dad playing classical and singing classical repertoire in the house. And so my mother, Patricia, she was Manx, and so I'm Manx and Chickasaw, and my mother was a professional choreographer and dancer. So my dad in opera and my mother in ballet, I grew up with a lot of theater in my life, and especially American theater. A lot of the earlier dancers like Isadora Duncan and Ruth St. Dennis, Ted Shawn, Martha Graham, Agnes DeMille are very big heroes of mine. And then I was talking about Joseph Campbell. He's somebody that I'm very familiar with. And so all of this tied together, I grew up with a great knowledge of legend from Indian country from all over North America because of my dad. And then grew up in the ballet world, which is absolutely saturated with legend. Everybody goes into the forest to find themselves and to have the challenges and everything like that. That's what the Firebird is all about. Luke Skywalker goes into the forest to face his father. Everybody does this. This is a typical hero's journey. And so to me, this all makes a lot of sense. And so our legends in Indian country have that deep personal exploration. They're full of hero stories. They're full of human growth. All the legends are just very, very rich. And to me, it's also very, very romantic. And so I feel very, very romantic about our legends in Indian country. And to see other composers create ballets based on that and operas is very inspiring to me to want to contribute that for Indian country.
Great. Yeah, I've so enjoyed working through your score. My first foray into it was all about, oh my God, how do I remember all the meter changes? And then as I finally got past that point, I started to find all those fascinating I don't know what to call it, but the nuances and the story, how the story emerges from all this, and how each one really takes up the next thing, and you have to be ready for that next scene in your head as well as because there's all these wonderful scenes that get changed throughout, and it's just been fabulous working on this. It's really taught me a lot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because this really is a ballet. When I composed it for Ted, I told Ted, I said, just so you know, this is really a ballet for bassoon and orchestra, it's because I feel all that because of my upbringing, and in all that storytelling, and so hopefully it's an emotional story that holds its own just fine. But I'm seeing all these scenes, and so you're talking in between. Those are all scene changes. I'm seeing the light changes, and
that makes
I'm
great
seeing the
sense
sets being flown in and out, and all this kind of stuff. I see all that as I'm composing. I literally see a theater going on, and so hopefully that just translates solid in an emotional fashion where nobody needs to know that that's what I'm seeing. That it just feels like it's transitioning, or so. At the end of the day, I feel that very good composition has just as tight of an emotional story as an actual architecture to scene creating, that kind of a thing. If you look at Beethoven's, Waldstein Sonata or his Opus 111, the architecture of those works is just phenomenal. Emotionally, from the very beginning, you're like, oh, here we go. It's like he's like grabbing your forearm and saying, all right, listen, I need your attention here. I need to tell you a very, very important story, and it's going to take me a little time. So just stay with me here. So, and this is how it starts. Boom. Every great work has that feeling of inevitability of telling something that's important, and whether or not that has an actual like theatric scene build to it or just it's purely emotional, is irrelevant. It has it. And so I want everybody to feel that kind of like, we're going somewhere. What's up?
We're going to try to do that.
Yes, we are. We're loving working on that.
The very beginning has that's like the grass in the ground. Like we're in the forest and it's coming out of the forest, and the bassoon is coming out of there because that's the deer emerging from the forest. That's the first sounds of the deer, and it gets, and it grows at the beginning because the deer is appearing. That's my emotional feeling of the deer is appearing. And so, I'm feeling all that. And so I want you to feel the same direction. I want you to feel, that motion that I'm feeling emotionally.
It feels very mysterious too. That first, it's this anticipatory mystery that's happening. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah. But good. That's awesome. And the meter thing is, just so you know, we have multi-metered music in our folk songs. Yeah. And so, and I am highly influenced by that. And our phrases, feel right, but they have different meters inside of them. And so I've got longer arcs of phrases that have mixed meters in them. Yeah. And so that's all quite influenced by our folk music.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Gosh,
really?
Do you have anything else that you'd like to add for us that you would like our audience to know from you? Because everything you're saying is so fascinating and wonderful. But if there's anything special that you'd like to talk to our audience about.
Yeah, sure. Okay, my biggest joy in my life is that I'm a father to my son Heloha, who is 12 now, and Heloha's name is our Chickasaw word for thunder. And I'm just really proud of his work. He's a very accomplished ballet dancer and studies at Oklahoma City Ballet at the Yvonne Choteau School of Dance. And Yvonne Choteau was one of our famous 5 Indian ballerinas from Oklahoma, and she and Miguel Terekov opened up the School of Dance at the University of Oklahoma back in the 60s. And my mother was one of her very first students. And so it's just kind of come full circle. Yes, really neat. Now my son is studying at her ballet school, but she and Miguel began Oklahoma City Ballet back in the day as well. So they began that company. But she was hired by the Ballet Russe when she was 14 years old. So so my son is just part of this really, really great ballet history, and I'm just really proud of him. But he's also a classical French horn player, and also plays cello and piano, which is great. So
amazing.
I'm like completely in the dad zone of raising a 12-year-old in the fine arts. And so there's a lot of travel to go to ballet rehearsals and music rehearsals, stuff like that. And so that he's my full-time job, which I just love. But I'm just really proud of him, and he's traveled with me all over the country to perform. He's performed with me in Carnegie Hall and in the Kennedy Center. And so I'm just very proud to be Heloha's father.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Anything else you can think of you'd like to talk about?
No. I'm just really grateful for this opportunity. And I guess, one thing is, if anybody is interested, I'm very fortunate that in the last 5 years, I've been able to populate Spotify with several recordings of my works. And so that's easily accessible for people. I've got all my stuff on all the major platforms, and then also on SoundCloud, and those are just free. If you look up Jerod Tate on SoundCloud, you can find stuff. But people can do deep dives. And my YouTube channel I've got all kinds of works there. Chokfi is actually I'm conducting San Francisco Symphony on that performance. And so it's.
I saw that. Me too.
Yeah, we've both seen that.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, and that's a pandemic recording because we're all wearing our masks at the time.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how that's a visual marker now? That's really incredible.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just, I'm so grateful that you all are playing these two pieces. They're about very important animals.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, yes.
oh, and you know, actually, okay, this may be another cultural thing that's really important to point out is, you know, so our tribes families are divided into clans, just like the Scottish, and our clans are named after animals. So my family is the raccoon clan or Shawi Iksa. And so our clans are very, very important to us. And so I love composing pieces about our woodland animals. And so Chokfi is a really good example of that. That was rabbit, and of course the white deer is in this. The quartet I composed for the Dover Quartet that's been toured recently has squirrel and raccoon and fish and woodpecker and deer as well. And so I will have different iterations of the same animals in different pieces, but I have lots of animals, and that's why this is an example of one of those animals that I feature in the entire concerto. So the woodland animals are very special to us, and I love writing about our animals.
Well, I hope that you're going to do some more symphonic works of these animals and that we can play them. So
Yes, actually, you know, I've got more coming
up
up.
to date.
I'm steeped in a violin concerto right now that's premiering in June, and so
Oh,
that's coming up.
oh,
And
oh,
that violin concerto is actually dedicated to our thunder beings, and it's our legend is that when we die, our spirits go up into the clouds, and they're kind of omnipresent and looking over us, and so sometimes they're called the thunder beings, and so the violin concerto is called Hatak Heloha, which means thunder beings.
That was Heloha, that your son's name. In the,
That's thunder. That's right.
and where is this going to be? Is it anywhere near us?
It's premiering in Washington D.C.
Oh, Washington, D.C. Okay, that's too far. If it was Washington State, I might drive up. But
Yeah.
yeah. Good. Okay. Well, that's exciting. I'm
Yeah.
so thrilled to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Well, hey, thank you. I mean, if you're good with that, I'm cool. And so what I'll do is
I think you've answered so much.
this has been a lot of fun.
Oh, and Nancy just had a question. She said, "Do you have any messages to our local tribes?" That I know a lot of them are working very, very diligently to revitalize their languages and all this kind of stuff, and their dance traditions and stuff. I
Yes.
don't know. Yeah.
You know, I'm very proud because Indian country is part of a global explosion of revitalization of cultures, and we have had a tremendous impact on that collectively as American Indians. And so Chickasaw Nation is going through the same thing. I mean, our language, we have language immersion now. I mean, we're stomp dancing like nobody's business, which is great. And oh my gosh, fashion in Indian country has just exploded. It's
Wow.
really wonderful to see. I mean, you go on Instagram, you see fashion for days. So my message to my native cousins is keep on keeping on. I mean, we're really doing a good job of saving a lot. And just all this new energy, and our kids are being so inspired, and I mean, it's like there's so much freedom and liberation that's happening. We all just feel really comfortable doing this. I've seen a very, very big psychic shift since the 70s, and it's so positive, and there's so much opportunity for us to do this. And so I just encourage everybody, keep running with it and enjoy it, and just find all the joy and positivity and opportunity in all of this. It's really, really beautiful, and I feel very blessed. You know, my ancestors walked 800 miles in mud so that I could turn around and compose operas about them. And we are so blessed that our ancestors did all the work for us. And so now we have the opportunity to honor them through our success.